We all have places we go that energize our soul. Sometimes it's the destination, sometimes it's the pursuit. It's difficult to define, but when we're there, we know it. Time speeds up, obstacles are overcome, and a surge of adrenaline excites the senses. In this episode, we follow Bassmaster Elite Series angler Bill Lowen as he follows his passion and lives his dream chasing bass all over the country. This is his element.
You know, I can remember as a kid growing up, all I can remember is that I wanted to be like Denny Brower someday when I grew up. You know, so for me to remember that exact moment, it's really hard for me to do. You know, my whole life has revolved around the outdoors, whether that be hunting or fishing. You know, my father was a tournament angler as I was growing up, so I kind of already knew that game, you know, so it just seemed like as I was growing up, somebody was always taking time out of their schedule to take me or hunting or fishing. So I cut my teeth on the Ohio River. Along the way, you know, you run into people on the water, and I ran into a buddy of mine, Billy Backman, you know, fishing Wednesday night fruit jar tournaments, fishing BFLs, anything local that we could fish. You know, when we were 16, 17, 18, 19 years old, we'd fish in anything that we could. You know, for us it was always about hunting and fishing every single day. You know, we used to travel together, share rooms, you know, split the cost, because, you know, back then we didn't have much money. You know, so we'd run around. It was just one of those deals that turned into a really good friendship. You know, and then something happened. You know, he kind of disappeared. You know, it was like, hey buddy, where you at? What's going on? And you know, he'd just be like, hey man, I'm just hanging out, doing whatever. And I can remember calling him up to go on a duck hunt to Lake Erie, to go hunt some diver ducks, and he didn't want to go. So I went and did my trip to Lake Erie, and I come back, and you know, I was a flooring installer growing up. You know, that's what I did to make a living. And I can remember being on the job and getting a phone call that he was dead. And I'm shocked. You know, you don't expect to get a phone call like that. You know, I think he was 20 years old when I got that phone call, and I wasn't much older than that. He got to running with the wrong crowd, and in about 2 months, drugs basically took over his life, and he ended up overdosing. I guess it was about a year later, you know, I guess I was to a point in my career where I was kind of stalled out. Without some serious help, I wasn't going to be able to go any farther. You know, I'd kind of got to that point where I needed some help to take me to that next level. Billy's father was a tournament fisherman as well, and I ran into them at an event. He said, hey, I need you to come out to the house and talk to me and Lori, which his wife, and we got something we want to talk to you about. I talked to him, and they say, hey, look, it was your dream and our son's dream to fish professionally and fish the Bassmaster Classic. We want to help you try to achieve that goal. It was a really emotional time for me. It was a cry fest in their kitchen. You know, and they offered to pay my entry fees and whatever I wanted to try to fish to try to qualify for the tour. How do you ever repay somebody for that? I'm truly blessed every day to be doing what I do. And look, I'd give it all up in a second if he was still alive. So my first year on the Bassmaster Elite Series was 2006. I finished 25th in the points. I qualified for the Bassmaster Classic my very first year. The Backman family got to come to the Bassmaster Classic and live their son's dream through me. And I got to thank them in front of the whole fishing world for what they did. And like I said, I'll never be able to repay them for what they did, but every day when I'm out there on the water, gives me that little bit of extra drive to do well. Not only for myself or my family, but for them as well. You know, I'm truly blessed to be able to make my living on the water. You know, every day out here is like a new adventure. You know, I think a lot of people measure success on how much money you make. You know, but how do you put a price tag on getting to live your dream, to get to wake up every morning and be out in God's creations? You know, whether that be fishing or hunting, that's priceless. You know, I get to travel all over the country, living my dream with my family, get to watch them grow up, get to introduce them to the great outdoors, the same way that my parents did me as I was growing up. You know, my kids, my wife, they love the outdoors as much as I do. Whether that's hunting, fishing, whatever that may be, as long as we're spending time in the outdoors, that's our element.
Each of us shares our own unique connection with the outdoors, a passion that drives us, defines us, a passion that centers us. It's where we're most at home. It's where we're in our element.